Last week, great! The Bundesliga's back. This week, oh, the Bundesliga's over. Football is now out of lockdown in Denmark, Poland, Serbia and the Czech Republic, and we now know it's coming back in the next 3 weeks in England, Spain and Italy. Hello from Will Downing and my fellow locked down football commentators Mark Rodden, Stephane, Jauny and Dmytro, Dzhulai. In this edition, it's visits to England, Germany, Poland and Denmark for us. We're talking to Lisa Fallon, who's just been appointed manager at London City Lionesses. We'll have one of the 2 Irish players in Polish football and one of the 3 Irish in the Women's Bundesliga in Germany, also getting underway this weekend. But the good news is that football is coming back in 4 of the 5 biggest leagues in Europe, including Germany, where it already is back. So, gentlemen, what are you looking forward to most? Stephane?
Well, as usual, like the big clubs and the leagues, like La Liga, for example, Serie A ultimately will come back at some point as well. The Premier League, I know the players are back to full training. But one of the major concerns we saw with the Bundesliga recently, the number of injuries. We know, like, for example, maybe Serie A will struggle and might overlap with next season. So the players won't necessarily have the time to recover. And you look at to do Euro 2021 next year and the World Cup as well. It's going to be very, very heavy scheduled for the players. That's a major concern on my side. But yes, it's great to see the football being back on screen. We talk about the major top 5 leagues in Europe, as you said, as you mentioned. But France is not being back. They will suffer financially from that and probably been punished on the transfer market or the Mercato this summer. Great to see the top players from La Liga, the Premier League, on the Serie A on the pitch, and hopefully no major injuries in the coming few weeks for the best players. That's sad to La Liga. The Liga is back, but Victor Valdés, if you remember, the goalkeeper from Barcelona and Standard Liège as well for a bit, and Manchester United, has been announced as a new coach for UE Horta. It's a Segunda B club in Spain.
Mark, what are you looking forward to when things get back to normal?
Well, obviously, close title races in La Liga, Serie A, Portugal as well, 1 point between Porto and Benfica. I'm looking forward to seeing Liverpool get their title. I think they deserve it. They deserve to get it on the pitch. And also looking forward to fans, if possible, getting back in safe conditions, with Poland announcing that there'll be 25% of capacity from, I think, June 19th. So that'll be interesting in the Ekstraklasse. A reminder that it's still very serious, though, with that news that Brendan Rodgers kept it quiet but had coronavirus as well. So that was 2 Premier League managers at least. And Ian Wone, the Burnley assistant, tested as well. So it is still a very strange time and we still have to take sort of baby steps. But as Stephane said, France is an outlier at the moment. Front page of L'Equipe on Friday pointing out, it's the only one of the big leagues. Like idiots was the phrase on the front page. The only one of the leagues to call it so early on April 30th, I think it was. And then Edouard Philippe, the Prime Minister, has now said that they could be back up and running, collective sports that is, by June 21st. So did they call it too early? That's going to be a big debate in France for the next few months.
They're surely the biggest loser from season 1920. There's not even a question about it. And the players will use the value of the market because they're not playing. And it's going to be a huge loss of revenue for clubs like Lyon, for example, who wants to sell, especially Marseille, who's struggling financially. And we're looking at to sell players, even though they qualify for the Champions League. But players wanted, like Florent Thauvin, for example, if you like, 12 months ago, was worth like, 50, 60 million. Now, how much can you sell him? I have no idea,
But then on the other side of that, you have Jean-Michel Aulas still trying to claim that, maybe we can get this back up and running. It's not too late to change our mind. And during the week, Andy Delors responded to him, being a Montpellier player, we had a real serious case of coronavirus within the club. One of our players was, in real trouble with it. We were shocked. We were afraid for him, for ourselves, for everybody. So that another reminder of why the league, or one of the reasons why the league in France was called so early.
Yeah, it's political reason. We know that. And Noël Le Graët pulled the plug again. There was a meeting last Wednesday and decided League 2 there will be relegation and promotions as per usual. And even though there was discussion before that and prior to that meeting on Wednesday that the League 2, the championship in France, would be played next season with 22 clubs. And there was an agreement between all the presidents and chairmen for the clubs. But Noël Le Graët, who is clearly the boss of the French football, decided, no, you can't do that. At the last word, and basically is running the show, and he tried to avoid cases in courts because he did exactly the same thing for non-professional leagues in France. And he replicated that with the League 1, League 2 and the third division.
So, Dmytro, what are you looking forward to most when things open up in most countries again then?
Championship and late under Marcelo Bielsa being promoted. It's more about Bielsa, of course, for me than about Leeds, but it would be great to see that club back in the top flight and, of course, to see Marcelo managing in the Premier League. And also, I'm looking forward for the return of Copa Libertadores, but I still don't know when it's going to happen because the situation in some of the countries in South America is really, really bad.
And I have to agree with Dmytro. It's quite exciting to see Leeds such in a good position for to get promotion automatically in the Premier League. Because if you remember last season, Marcelo Bielsa, the system completely fell apart the second half of the season because he doesn't rotate his squad. That's one of the weakness for Marcelo Bielsa. My point of view that he will stick with the same 11 for the full campaign. But maybe the break, will be beneficial for Bielsa and his mind, and we'll get automatic promotion to the Premier League.
And what have you been watching this week?
Well, the usual stuff, what we mentioned before, but also the football is back in Czech Republic, so I watched a few games in there. And actually, it's interesting that in Příbram, they had fans in the stadium. I don't know why, because in Prague, it was an empty stadium for the second division game, Dukla Vysočina Jihlava, but in Příbram against Baník Ostrava, they did have some fans, and it almost seems surreal.
In Friday night's action, Salzburg won the Austrian Cup, beating Austria Lustenau 5-0 in the final. It means Jesse Marsch is the first born and raised American coach to win a European trophy, and the second American-born boss after John Caulfield of Cork City. Red Star Belgrade have clinched the title in Serbia, a record 31st for them, beating Rad 5-0. And in Germany, the Bundesliga is pretty much done after Bayern Munich's midweek win at Borussia Dortmund. Joshua Kimmich with the only goal in the stroke of half-time. That allied with Leipzig's 2-2 home draw with Hertha Berlin and Borussia Mönchengladbach's goalless draw at Werder Bremen means Bayern lead Dortmund now by 7 points with 6 games to play. Leipzig are 9 points down. A Dortmund win and it would have been down to a single point. Not quite as tight as it looked as if it was going to be, Mark.
No, unfortunately for any neutral, I think it was a disappointing result, but we've kind of become used to it because I mentioned it with the Union Berlin win for Bayern in their first match back. It was very similar, did enough to win. Dortmund, I just had a feeling they had to take their early chances. They didn't. Brilliantly executed goal by Joshua Kimmich, but you'd have to question Roman Bürki, the goalkeeper, interestingly, showing the level of detail that goes into these matches. Both Kimmich and Thomas Müller said after the game, we were told or we'd noticed that Bürki takes a couple of extra steps forward, so he is vulnerable, compared to other keepers to being lobbed from that kind of distance, and that's what happened. That was the goal that decided it, and a talking point as well, the handball by Jerome Boateng, goal-bound shot by Haaland that wasn't punished with a penalty, perhaps because Borussia Dortmund took a corner very quickly and the VAR team didn't have time to intervene then.
They can intervene whenever they want. It is a penalty. It's a stonewall penalty. I don't know how they could have missed it. I don't really understand that.
VAR.
To me, the referee was more the problem there. He should have spotted that. It was clear, but then Dortmund, the players at the time didn't really seem to notice, to be honest. They didn't complain too much.
And something quite interesting, I'm just jumping on completely a different subject because, we talk about the players being back, but already in the Bundesliga, some managers under pressure, like David Wagner at Schalke 04. I know he just received the backing of his sporting director, Jochen Schneider, but it's only 1 win 2020, 4 draws and 6 defeats for David Wagner. Schalke is a big club in Germany. there were hope, like, to, well, obviously to climb up in the European places, but it's not going really well for David Wagner, who's been, let go as well by Huddersfield when they got relegated last season. But it's a strange, strange situation for Wagner at Schalke, because I do believe he's a great coach, his great ability, and he has got a lot to offer, but it seems that he's struggled now, to relaunch or revive, his career, even back in Germany.
The Danish Superliga resumed on Thursday night with a 1-1 draw between AGF Aarhus and Randers, with thousands of fans able to attend virtually, with the live feed from their homes being shown on big screens in the stadium in Aarhus for some atmosphere. Søren Højlund Carlsen from the club joins us now. So how did all this come about then?
It came about because we were getting used to talking like we do now. I had a lot of colleagues who were sent home, working from home. And all of us were supposed to be working from home for the first 2 or 3 weeks of the corona crisis in Denmark. Then a couple of us were allowed to back at the office. But we were still using Zoom, Teams, all this technology to talk to each other. And that gave us the idea, can we use this technology to scale up and get a lot of fans engaged in the game? Because, of course, when you don't have the fans at the stadium, you miss this community, and the fans miss the opportunity to meet each other, to see each other, to greet each other. Because football is not just about football and the game and the players. It's about the fans and the community surrounding the games that is missing right now. So could we use the technology to recreate that somehow? And then we talked to the guys to Zoom, how can we scale up a meeting? Now we're talking just one-on-one. And they said in theory it would work. You can have as many people as you want to in big meetings. So when they gave us the okay and they said that this can be done, then it was just a matter of developing and experimenting. And yeah, last night we had it for the first time, and it was a big success. We were 10,000 tickets out, but as we noticed during the game, a lot of the ticket holders were gathered, maybe 2 or 3 in front of the television, maybe a family. So I think we were closer to 30,000 who was watching the game and being together like this. So it was a great success.
So how were you able to link it up? A whole load of different Zoom rooms or something like that? Something similar?
Yeah, we made the concept that you could buy into a section of the stadium. So if you're a season ticket holder, you used to have maybe section A, number 11, and you could have that same seat. And that gave the opportunity to meet the other season ticket holders, because when you go to football games, I think it's the same way in Ireland and all over the world. You meet people that you only see at games. Of course, you go with maybe family or friends, but you also meet people that you only see at games. You have the guy who has been there for 50 years and he's shouting every 10 minutes. You have the young couple who are sitting there that you greet at the game. Those people you could meet in the Zoom environment, because if they wanted to be there, they can also take part in the same sections. So we had 22 sections, and there we could just fill in with the people. And then we have an away stand for Randers fans, and we have a section for neutral people who didn't want to sit together with other Aarhus AGF fans.
For those who were sitting at home, what were they seeing back? Was it a TV view of the game or something different?
Of course, they have to have the signal, perhaps on the television or on the second screen mobile device or whatever they use. They will watch the game there. And then they saw just like we're seeing now, but in multiple, 18, 20, 25 people, all of them in AGF jerseys. And then they could see how do they react when Randers score. People were upset when Randers score. And then they could see the other fans when we score a late equalizer, actually a very late equalizer. I think it was 92 minutes or 93 minutes. So they could be together around the football and experience each other's joy and feelings. And today we have seen some of the footage from it, and it's very moving to see the fans. How do they react? We have the old couple who are kissing each other when we equalize. We have the young fans who are jumping up and down. So all these reactions, and it just emphasized that football is feelings. And I talked to one of the players afterwards, and he said he didn't realize how this was going to work. But when he saw the fans' reaction, he got very touched and moved by it. because somehow the screen emphasized those feelings when you see the stands. Of course, you see tens of thousands of fans at the stands, and you see there and you feel their emotion. But seeing it one-on-one, seeing a couple, seeing some friends, and only see them, that emphasized this feeling. It was some sort of an intimate experience. It was a new experience, and it was pretty moving.
Are you liable to do this again for future games? There's not much left in the regular season in Denmark now.
No, we have. This was a postponed game, so we started off after the Corona, and now we have 2 regular games left in the playoffs. Yeah, so we have 2 games left, and the next one is on Monday at home against Odense. And we will have that there because we have the screens up. It's a massive logistic experience to put the screen up and down. So why not let it stay there? But then we go on away. We play 2 away games. The one in the Super League, which is the last one. And then we have a cup game. And then let's see how things are. Maybe in Denmark, we are hopeful that we can get spectators. Maybe 500, 1,000. And if we get that opportunity, we're not going to do it again because, of course, we prefer to have people at the stadium in real life, real flesh and blood, and even 500, even 1,000 people, even in our big stadium, that will make a world of difference because then you will have the opportunity to create this community, to have the community like we know it before around football. And I must say, I use the word community a lot, and I've been done for the last couple of days, but these times has really emphasized to me how important fans is for football clubs. And especially clubs like ours, who is an old, historic, big club in a city. We are one club city. When people can't come and see our games, it's sad, and it's something that we are missing in the everyday life. And so to get the opportunity to see them yesterday, to experience, it was moving. And we are hoping we can see just some of them later on so they can be back at the stadium. And who knows, after the summer break, after this season, hopefully we can have all people back.
Søren, thank you very much. You're 3rd in the table, so still a lot to play for. So thanks for joining us.
Fingers, 3rd in the table and in the semi-final of the cup. And we haven't won anything in 23 years. So this season we are crossing fingers.
So Midtjylland are doing their drive-in football on a bank holiday Monday in Denmark this weekend. But what about what Aarhus did then for their big screens on the far side of the pitch?
Well, I think it's better than having plastic dolls in the stadium or cutouts in the stands. It's more real. Well, as real as it can get in those situations, but apparently it's something interesting.
Did they win?
Did they win? It finished 1-1.
Okay, so they got on better than Borussia Mönchengladbach, who had the cardboard cutouts of fans against Bayer Leverkusen and lost at home.
And Korea, we had blow-up dolls until it was realised. And was it FC Seoul, actually?
Yeah,
they only realised too late what kind of blow-up dolls they actually were. So the Austrian Bundesliga on its way back as well, Mark, next week. And Lask Linz have had a little bit of a hurdle to get over.
Yeah, they went back to full contact training before everyone else. Film emerged. They were unhappy about how that film emerged, but the 11 other teams in the league were very unhappy with Lask. And as a result, they've been fined 75,000. More importantly, they got a 12-point deduction off their regular season points total, which translates to 6 points off their total for the championship playoffs. So instead of being out in front, going for their first Austrian Bundesliga title, they are now 3 points behind Salzburg, who are going for their 7th in a row ahead of a 10-game playoff series. So that league getting back underway on Wednesday, and they're playing Wednesday, Sunday until July 5th. So it's a really intense schedule for them there.
So we have a new Irish boss in Women's League football in England with the London City Lionesses. It's Lisa Fallon, who had been on the coaching team at Chelsea. Congratulations, Lisa. How did it come about?
Cheers, Will. Yeah, I think it's, as you say, a week is a long time in football. But yeah, I think I just had a couple of conversations with Diane Culligan in the board and the board. And once we felt there was common ground, things kind of escalated quite quickly then, and we had some really good, frank discussions, and once we got to that point, I felt this was going to be a really positive move. I felt there was huge potential at the club, and I think they were a good fit for me. So yeah, once it became a distinct possibility, I think things just rolled pretty quickly from there.
It was a very awkward time in football, full stop, over in England. How's it been for you for the past couple of months with no football happening?
Yeah, it's been really weird. I think, when your whole life is centered around football and suddenly football is gone, I think even chatting to other people in the game, it's just like I think initially it was a really, really big void. But personally for me, it was probably the first time in about 15 years I had more than 1 week off work. So it was actually a welcome break and a great opportunity to reflect, because I felt, with my time with, as the journey started back in probably 2010, 2011, really since then, the breaks never went on. And I went from doing my B license to my A license to my pro license, then straight into the LMA diploma in football management, which I finished last year. And then within that, you're also working full time in the game. So it's been, it was probably the first time in a long time that I was actually able to stop and take stock and just have a little bit of a breather. So, and great to spend time, more quality time with the family as well. And, because when you're in football, you miss out on things. You're probably not able to go to all the family things that you would normally be able to go to. Miss out on a few 60th birthdays and stuff like that. So, albeit by Zoom, we've been able to catch up and have great chats and spend some time, albeit virtually. But I've actually enjoyed the break and a time to reflect and reset. So yeah, it's been actually really quite nice.
And the Lionesses fourth in the championship when football ended in England. So, in a good position, a very good foundation then.
Yeah, absolutely. I met the players on Wednesday, albeit by a virtual call. But since then, I've been able to chat to most of them now one-to-one, and I'll chat to the rest of them today. And what strikes me is they're a really positive group of players and very talented. There's so much potential in the group, and for such a young team and a young club to finish in that position in the first season, I think is a great platform to build on. And I'm really, really excited about just getting back out on the pitch now and being able to work with them.
And how does it feel then being interviewed, I suppose, mainly by all your old colleagues, having been a sports journalist for so long?
Yeah, it's funny, because I think when I was 12, I always wanted to work in football, and when I was kind of 11, 12, that was around the time of Euro 88 and Italia 90, and I was, in those most influential years, you're watching the Republic of Ireland in, these major championships, and we beat Brazil in 1987, and we were a really good team then, and they were massive role models for me, and I just I wanted to work in the game so much back then, and even I remember in secondary school, when we started, they'd no girls team, and I could only play in boys teams, so I convinced the school to set up a women's team or a girls team, and the team is still going. Actually, my daughter goes to that school now, and she played in the team, and the same teachers are all still there. So when we go to the parent-teacher meetings, it's great crack, because we're still talking about the old days when we won the FAI schools competition. So, but then I suppose during those kind of formative years, I thought the only way I could work in football was to work in sports reporting. I thought it was the only way. So I pursued that. I made that the career choice, and I went after it, and I loved it. I mean, enjoyed it so much, worked with some incredible people, and had some amazing experiences all across Europe following sport, and getting to talk about it and watch it and interview incredible managers and players. It was such a privileged time, but deep down I always yearned to be on the grass and in the dugout and just part of the whole thing, and it just wouldn't go away. And then eventually, I suppose around 2010, 2011, when I suppose the coaching and the analysis aspect of it started to intertwine with what I was doing, it started to become possible that there might be another way to go, and I didn't know where the road would take me, or what might be at the end of it, or where the stop sign might be. But all I know is I haven't reached the stop sign yet, and it's been an incredible journey and really exciting, and I enjoy every minute of it. I really, really do.
So you mentioned the word role model, and also you were telling how you actually made those people to create a girls team in the school. But when you moved into coaching and you worked with men, and I understand that there was no one you could turn to and ask them, what do I do now? So who were your role models, especially in the coaching?
It's really bizarre, but I don't know if you remember, but back in 1989, there was a program on Channel 4 called The Manageress, and Sherry Lungi starred in that as Gabriella Benson, and she became the manager of a second division team in England. And that was the first time in my life, I was 12, that I saw a woman in football. And that planted a seed to me that it was possible. But I knew, doing what she was doing probably wasn't possible, but it still gave me hope that a woman could work in football. And to be fair, how many years are we since then? That was 1989, 31 years since then. It still hasn't happened. But in the professional men's game in the UK, but it's not to say it won't, and I'm sure it will. But that she was my role model, even though she was a fictitious character. She was my role model. And then my granddad also was a huge role model for me, because he was just a really good, authentic, hardworking man, and I got those values from him, I think. And then I suppose as I advanced, more and more people became role models for me through mentorship or people I got to work with. But yeah, like my initial role model who inspired me was a fictitious character, unfortunately. But I'd like to think that that's different now for girls and for women and for everybody, that we've got great people like Katie Taylor, and there's a lot of really good female role models for young girls now to aspire to.
And in terms of your coaching career to date, you've been involved with Northern Ireland, with Cork City, and that in tandem with your journalism career at the same time. How did you manage to keep the balls in the air, or keep the plate spinning?
Yeah, I think really once I felt there was a little bit of crossover, I just moved away from the sport. So when I was working in League of Ireland, I just didn't cover League of Ireland. I focused on rugby and Gaelic football and hurling. And then once the international stuff happened, I just moved away and didn't cover international stuff. So it was like you're always just trying to be authentic but not compromise any area that you're in. And it was just about, I suppose, making those decisions along the way and trying to be as honest as I could without compromising any situation. And it's really important to be able to have people's trust that you work with. And I think you can't work at that level of the game unless people trust you. And it's very important to respect that trust that you get and not betray it. So for me, it was always about that. And gradually, as it kind of moved further and further along, it ended up that I was really only covering Gaelic football and hurling at the end before I made the full transition then into professional football.
And you'd involvement in Gaelic football as well, of course, for a good bit prior to all that. Quite successfully.
Oh, with the Dubs, yeah. No, it was that was really interesting. Yeah, I got a call. I think it was in November 2017. Cork City had just won the double, or we were in the middle of I think, you know, that, and the opportunity came up, and so, you know, I met Jim and had a conversation, and, you know, after that we decided that it would be good, and so yeah, it was an amazing experience. Very good to test yourself in a different sport, and also I suppose my purpose there was maybe to look at it through a different lens, and see it in a different way, and was there a different perspective that could be considered. But again, that was an amazing experience. All players and managers and the coaching staff, backroom team, incredible people, so dedicated, and it was a real genuine privilege, and I learned a lot in that environment, a lot.
I mean, Northern Ireland as well, their most successful period since the 80s. And you were there as part of Michael O'Neill's backroom team. O'Neill having been very good for the couple of years he was at Shamrock Rovers, sort of revitalising them, winning titles again.
Yeah, look, that was an amazing journey as well. It was, you know, it started off with making motivational videos for the team, and then it progressed to doing other bits and pieces, film and training, and bits and pieces of analysis and stuff. So yeah, it was, again, do you know, for me, one of the most important things is like the tactical stuff and all that kind of stuff that's just the nature of the game. That's the nuts and bolts of the job. But the real experiences and the real learning I felt with the different teams, with the different cultures, and working with different philosophies, and learning to understand the game through different managers' eyes, and how they want to translate that information to players, and what their philosophies are on the game, and how you mold things and adapt to things as things change, and also working with the different players and different coaches, and you learn so much from the people that you work with. And in every environment, I just found everybody so different. The nuts and bolts of preparing the team and preparing training and all of that was the same, more or less. You know, but the key difference in all of it was the people along the way, and, you know, how you experience those different cultures, and all the time you're kind of picking bits and pieces, going, yeah, I really like that, and I'm not sure I would be able to do that, or that probably wouldn't be a fit for me, and again, it's just like the learning you get in those environments is incredible, and yeah, I'm really grateful for the opportunities I've had to work with those managers, and to have their trust to work in those environments.
Lisa, you worked as an analyst and analyzing opponents and the trainings of the teams you worked for. How much of that now helps you being a manager? And as a manager, how much attention do you pay to this kind of analysis? Because, as you said, there are many different people. As I understand that sometimes analysts just have to, well, sort of do what they're told and adjust to the team they're in. So how much of the analysis impacts you have in your work as a manager now?
I think the actual nuts and bolts of analysing the game is a small part of it. How you translate that information to the players so that it actually means something to them in terms of how they perform and the decisions they make on the pitch was the biggest part of the learning, because players have different ways of taking information on board, whether you present it in a team environment, if you present it in small groups, or if it's a one-to-one, and what you do and how you bring that information across, whether it's through video, through use of the tactics board, through conversation, or through physically doing it on the pitch. So, and sometimes part of my role wasn't me actually translating the information to the players. Sometimes it was me translating the information to the manager or the coach who was going to take that part of the session. So for me, that was almost being like a translator. And for me, actually, working in radio was a brilliant learning ground for that, because in radio, you're watching a game that the people listening cannot see. And your job, you might have 90 seconds to tell those people and paint a picture of what is happening in the game, the atmosphere, the flow, what it means. You have 90 seconds to capture the essence of that and and connect with the listener so that they feel connected to the game or part of it. And it's only in later years that I actually started to understand how valuable that skill set from radio actually became, because effectively, if I go and watch a game and I come back and I'm telling the manager or some of the players about certain aspects, they're effectively the radio listener. They're blind to what I've seen. So for me, I actually think that radio work and all those years served me brilliantly in terms of having the ability to do that.
How did you find the move into women's professional football then with Chelsea? Because we've obviously seen over the last 10, 15 years a lot of large, by comparison, women's clubs sprout up who are mainly affiliated to large men's clubs.
Yeah, it was different. Women's football and men's football are quite different, but the will to win, the professional preparation, the resources at Chelsea were second to none, and Emma Hayes has done an incredible job at bringing the women's team at that club to the level that it is now. And the club believe in the women's team, which for me, I really loved. Like, you never felt like a second-rate citizen. It was everything was really, really spot on. And that's the future for the women's game. So for me, the differences really are, again, it sounds maybe a little bit cliche, but the people, again, it's different. Delivering to a female dressing room and to a female squad is different to delivering to a male squad, because the game is slightly different as well, tactically, and then also it's the personalities that you're dealing with. So it's you require different skill sets in both environments, and that was something I really had to learn as well, which again, making that transition was really good, because I became very normalized and very conditioned in a male working environment, in men's football, particularly at that level where every result matters and jobs potentially depend on the results. So moving into women's football, it was a really good opportunity to sit back and see it and understand it, and understand from me that I would have to adapt certain things about how I might have done things before. I would have to adapt that. So from that perspective, it's been a great learning experience, and actually a really good, valuable stepping stone before I start now with managing the team.
So you're moving now to Dartford, the Lionesses, who were based in Millwall for a few years, a side who was, I've said, fourth in the championship last year, so there's definitely potential there. What was it about the Lionesses that attracted you, tempted you, that said, yeah, I think I could do something good here?
The potential of it, like, it's just, they're such a young club and a young squad, and I include my 29-year-olds in young when I say young. But yeah, it's the vision for the club and the ambition for it. I love the fact that it's a journey that we're going to be on, and we've got this opportunity now to really build something. And that I love that process of building and going in and building towards something, and gradually putting the pieces of the jigsaw together and watch it come together, and seeing the players, even speaking to them, their ambitions, and they've all got personal ambitions and collective ambitions. And I think it's a really privileged position to be in as a coach or a manager, to help facilitate somebody to work towards their ambition. And I'm really, really lucky that I've had incredible managers, incredible coaches who took chances on me when it probably wasn't the done thing to put a woman into an environment and into a highly competitive environment. But they believed in me. And as I met different challenges, they continued to encourage me and push me and challenge me to get better every day, and to either decide, look, the setback is there, or it either makes you or it breaks you, or you learn from it, or you walk away from it. And that encouragement and that you know, that investment from all of those people, coaches, mentors, people outside the game, people inside the game that I didn't necessarily work with, sometimes worked against. And it was, you know, but that level of investment that people put in me is why I am where I am today. And now I have that opportunity to do that for another group of players and a club. And I just want to try and draw on all the experiences that I've had and push and try and help to facilitate another group to have some of the opportunities that I've had, and certainly to try and help them to reach their potential.
So for you then, what would success be in this job?
Oh, success! It's a funny thing. Like it's a different thing to so many people, isn't it? Everyone you ask has a different picture of what success looks like. But for me, I think just to get in and to give it my best shot and to really maximise my learning so far and contribute as much as I can and work as hard as I can, and that to me ultimately will I suppose my own work and my own contribution to it will measure my success. I'm quite process driven. I enjoy the work, and then I like to see other people have the moment. And so yeah, I think success for me will just be that the players are happy and that they're enjoying coming to training and that they enjoy the games and that the fans enjoy coming to watch us play. That for me, and obviously that the board are happy to keep me in place for a while, that would be success as well. Yeah, the response I've been getting the last few days has been phenomenal. I know there's certainly going to be a strong London Irish representation there. I've had contact from people over in London and saying, you know, we'll be down to support you. And I went to university in Kent, which is, so I lived there for 6 years, back in my late teens, early 20s. So I studied sports science at Christchurch University in Canterbury, and I played for Gillingham and Sittingbourne during those times. God, many, many moons ago. But yeah, no, I would know a lot of people there, and but I'd be hoping that you know, that we'd be able to drum up a bit of local support. And look, to be fair, the club is doing incredible work with local teams and community. The community work is huge, so that the club is embarked on. So all those things, I think, you know, will help us to drive the crowds and get a few more London City Lionesses fans into the ground. And I'm really looking forward to meeting them all and hearing them, albeit probably socially distanced, but you know, it'll be great to see people back in the stadiums when it's safe for everybody to have that.
Nice one. Hope it goes very well, Lisa.
Thanks so much, Will. Thanks, Dmytro.
So Germany's Women's Bundesliga is underway this weekend, with champions Wolfsburg going 11 points clear of Bayern Munich on Friday night after beating FC Cologne 4-0. Ireland's Amber Barrett sent off in that, unfortunately. Diane Caldwell saw her SC Sand side strike first, but still lost 3-1 at FFC Frankfurt. The third of the Irish players in Germany, Claire O'Riordan of MSV Duisburg, is joining us now. What's it been like in the past couple of months, Claire?
They've kind of been a bit unreal at the moment. Well, with everything that's kind of going on, life has changed a lot for a lot of people. For me, I was away with the Irish team and I was due to come back to Germany for everything closed up shop. I decided to fly home. So I spent about 2 months at home in Ireland, and then obviously with the restart of the Bundesliga, I had to come back.
Like, you're one of 3 Ireland internationals currently based in Germany. Amber Barrett with FC Cologne, Diane Caldwell with SC Sand as well. You've obviously come across them a few times this season.
My team has played both Cologne and Sand so far this season, so I have come across them within the next 3 games. So this weekend we have Leverkusen, our first game back, but the second and third game we have Cologne and Sand, as far as I'm aware. So I'll actually be seeing the girls quite soon. Thankfully, so it'll be nice to see some familiar faces and just to see how they are. It's actually really nice to have some Irish over here as well, just knowing that they're here, and I'll run into them at some stage of the season, you know, and see a friendly face and have a good Irish catch up. You'd miss the Irish banter sometimes over here.
Yeah, I bet you would. I mean, generally outside of this period, what's life been like in Germany for you as a professional footballer?
Yeah, it's been a big change, big lifestyle change, really. But, you know, I suppose the biggest thing for me was just kind of getting used to all the training that a professional does, like even more like on double days and going to the gym and things like that, putting that all into your weekly schedule. And then obviously you'd have a lot of downtime. You'd be kind of trying to fill. Sometimes obviously you need to rest and recover and get ready for the next session. But then, you know, having free time, obviously over here, I came to a new country where I was leaving my family and my friends. But thankfully, I have some really good teammates on the team, and I get along with everyone. The typical thing is go out for coffee, I go for lunch or grab dinner, you know, just go for a walk or go for a drive or just go to the city somewhere else. So it's treated me well. It's taken some time to get used to, but I think I finally found my feet this season in filling the gaps. I brought my guitar over as well, actually. That helped a lot.
You play quite a bit then?
Well, I play a small little bit. I try and do the best that I can, but music has always kind of been in my family, so guitar always kind of interested me at a young age, so I decided that it was time to bring it over. I was going to buy a new one, but then I said it would just be as easy just to bring it over, and I'd be on the when I wanted.
A family of singers, is it?
Well, there's a few singers and a few musicians. A few of my cousins and my niece play the piano, the violin. Guitar is actually pretty big. I have two cousins as well, or three cousins. I have a cousin actually in Kildare. He's in a band. He plays quite a bit in Dublin. My niece had an exam over Zoom when I was at home during the break. She passed. She did very well. She got 93 out of 100, so we were all delighted for her. But yeah, so she's following in his footsteps, and it's a nice thing for the family to have. We can all bond together when we get together and have an old sing-song or whatever.
What restrictions have you found then in the build-up to football resuming in Germany?
Well, I suppose the biggest restriction is actually being in quarantine in the hotel in the city, because we can only leave the hotel when it's go to the training centre. And even still, like when we have to go for the corona test, it's to our men's stadium, and then we go directly to the training centre. So there's nothing in between. So we're in the hotel other than that all the time. But in terms of the restrictions, as I said, the most important thing for everyone that they have to abide by here is wearing masks. Otherwise, you won't be allowed to actually enter into that facility.
And are games still being played on a home and away basis?
As far as I know, yes. Our home games have actually changed from PCC Stadium to our men's stadium, which is going to be a nice change. I think a lot of players are looking forward to playing men's stadium because the field will be quite nice to play on compared to what we have been experiencing at PCC. But I do believe Jena are having a bit of trouble because they're not allowed to train until the 5th of June, I think. I'm not entirely sure of the logistics on the whole lot of it, but as far as I know, where they're based in the state that they're in, they're not allowed to train as a unit until the 5th of June, and our league starts this weekend, so I think that they've give up home advantage. So I think they might be leaving to go and play the game. But again, to be honest with you, I don't bite into what's on too much in the rest of it, because I just try and focus on what we're doing. It's hard enough to keep up to grasp what the schedule here is, making sure that we don't miss information, with the translation of German to English or English to German and things like that. So I just try and focus on what's going on over here.
And it must have been quite welcome as well, as you've already alluded to, the fact that you now know the upcoming fixtures for the Ireland international team as well for the remainder of the year.
Yeah, so that was actually a nice surprise for us all to get. Everyone was really happy to see that our games have been given a date to be played. I suppose the next thing will be to get them played on the day, and hopefully that can go. So we've 3 up in the group stages, and 2 big games. Well, 3 big, but obviously it will be one at a time. And the first game will be in September against Germany away. So that would be an interesting game to play.
It will be, and I mean, it's so far so good. Top of the group under, a relatively new coach and Vera Pauw as well. So everything seems to have gone well to date.
Yeah, everything on track, as planned. I think we set ourselves goals in which games we need to make sure and secure 3 points by. Possibly a bit of a hiccup with the Greece game, conceding a late equalising goal. We left 2 points behind us, but we won't dwell on that because it's over and done with, and all we can do is focus on what's ahead of us, and that will be the first game against Germany and getting ourselves up to hopefully get a positive result that helps us in securing a qualification position.
And just basically on the club scene, obviously the main target is to stay up with Duisburg for another season.
Yeah, so that will be the goal for the remainder of the season, is to secure first league football for next season. We have 7 games to play in the space of 4 or 5 weeks. It'll be a heavy toll on the squad and on the bodies to do so over the next few weeks, but we'll take it game by game, and we've identified which games we need to try and secure 3 points or at least 8 points. But this next week will be big for us in, I think, maybe how things are going to shape up for us for next season.
Claire O'Riordan of MSV Duisburg, good luck for the rest of the season. Men's action is underway again in Poland with the huge clash of Lech Poznan and Legia Warsaw being a major Saturday night highlight. There are 2 Irish players in the country, Killian Sheridan of Wisła Płock, and in the second flight, Eric Molloy is in a mid-table position right now with Stomil Olsztyn. What's it been like there for the past couple of months?
Well, thanks very much for having me on. What's it been like? It's been difficult, I suppose. Trainings and matches and all cancelled, and then you're put into quarantine and told you can't train or go outside your door. It has been tricky. But I think Poland have kind of really gone to the forefront and tried to get back football as quickly as possible, because I think it benefits everyone getting it back, like fans, clubs, players, everyone. So I think from the minute this quarantine really happened, they were following the guidelines from the government, but they were always thinking how to kind of nearly, try and get football back or get it close to becoming back, and trying to nearly push the boundaries, but trying to be actually following the proper protocols. So there was no any of the government laws kind of being broken. And they kind of set out then a schedule every kind of nearly 2 weeks for clubs to kind of follow and stuff. And they either added to it or kept it the same, depending on the situation and the laws that were in place. And we're finally getting back to playing now with the rest of the league on Tuesday.
Yeah, and where you are at the moment with Stomil Olsztyn is, I mean, you're in 12th place, but you're 5 points off the promotion playoffs and 6 points off the relegation spots. So, I mean, in one way, you're very, very well placed. 2 wins out of the last 5, 2 losses as well. So it's kind of been 50-50 in form heading into the lockdown.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like, the one thing that stands out about this league, it's a very tight league. There's no team that's like far ahead of anyone else. And I suppose, one win or 2 could bring you a good few places up the table. We're very optimistic. Like, we're very positive. I feel like we kind of made 1 or 2 signings at the start of the year, and training has been going really good of lately, and you can start to see some really good patterns, and some of the things we've been working on are starting to come off. So, like, we're feeling very excited, very happy to be back playing, and we're really looking forward to push forward. We want to finish in like the top 5, top 6, the promotion spots.
And I mean, it is mainly a Polish squad. You've got Czech player, Japanese, Albanian, Ukrainian, a Latvian goalkeeper. So it seems like there's a good mix of nationalities there.
Yeah, no, there is. There's definitely a good mix. But the one thing, at first when I arrived in, it was a little bit difficult with the language. Most of the people spoke Polish, but some of the signings that have been brought in, they've all have really good English. So it's kind of been a bit of a positive for me. So I can talk and bounce more of my ideas off more of the players, and kind of make more friends, because it's very hard to converse with someone that has zero English and I have zero Polish. There's only gestures and smiles and different things that communicate. So a friendship can kind of only go so far when you can't really communicate. But yeah, there's a wide mix of players. So there's a very good experience and some different ideas and stuff on football, which is always good to talk about.
I mean, it's a sizable city. It's a regional city. How did you end up there in the first place for this season?
Well, I probably came back from New Zealand. I spent 3 years out there, for 3 seasons, and I came back to Ireland, and I was thinking about what I was going to do next. I was trying to move on or move up, and when I had an option to stay in again another season as well in New Zealand, but I decided I wanted to change to something different. And yeah, I've tried a few options. I was exercising a lot of contacts and stuff, and yeah, this kind of come up on a period where I didn't really have anything on that week, and they said if you can get over, like I think this was on the Thursday, and they said, oh well, if you can get over on the Saturday and Sunday, we'll have a look at you. So I literally said, right, I booked a flight and I got over there, I think Saturday, and I trained in all week, and at the end of the week I liked it and they liked me as well, so they offered me a contract, and I said, well look, there was only 6 games left in League of Ireland. Most other places, like they're kind of finishing or in the middle of the season. These were just kind of starting, and I thought this would be a good, like, kind of fresh start to get in here and try perform and play professionally, play every day. And I said, yeah, I liked it, so I eventually signed, and here I am still.
But I mean, you've had really a remarkable career, because you were with Arklow Town, you were with Wexford for 4 seasons, 5 seasons, then you went to Southern United, then you were in Wellington, so 3 years in New Zealand, and then Poland. And, you know, in one way or another, those are all quite remarkable moves. So how did they come about?
Well, each move kind of came about a little bit differently. I remember when I went to Arklow, I was actually playing with FC Carlow before that. I don't know, it was like one of them forgotten clubs that somehow they didn't survive. But I thought I wanted to play underage football because I was only 17 at the time, so I wanted to play under 18, you know. And I went to Arklow under 18s, and then I kind of ended up playing in their senior team then. By chance, but I was looking to play in the under 18s, you know, and do well in under 18 football. And then, yeah, my old manager from FC Carlow, Shane Keegan, got the job in Wexford. Even though before that, Noel O'Connor was on to me to come down before that. And I said, no, I'm not going to come down halfway through a season. I want to start a fresh start or nothing, you know. And Shane Keegan then got the new job. So then I ended up going down to Wexford and played there for 4 years. That was great memories, great experience. And then there was an opportunity that came about that I heard of, a great opportunity to go to New Zealand from one of my former Ireland University managers and Carlow IT managers, Paul O'Reilly. And he got a job out in New Zealand and then eventually got the head coach of Southern United. And he was kind of asking around for players, and I heard this opportunity, so I said, I just asked Paul, you know, what's going on, what is the situation? He kind of said, yeah, he was very interested and would like me to come out and kind of propose something for me. And I was like, well, this is kind of an opportunity I can't turn down. It's only like 3-4 months and I can come back for League of Ireland season. But I ended up liking it so much in New Zealand that I stayed for a year, longer than I thought, and then I ended up doing well that season. And when I played well against my team, my old team, Team Wellington, in some of the matches we played in the league, and I did well. I've scored like 7 goals and a few assists for Southern. And like in comparison, Southern they've probably only won 1 match in the whole year in the last 3 previous years. So now we've won a few games and I'm scoring a few goals, and they're kind of rising. That people took notice of that, and I probably had a few options. But when Team Wellington came in, I was like, yeah, I just have to go. It was an article that I said I wasn't going to be signing with Southern, and they seen it, and the manager got in contact with me, and that's how I ended up in Team Wellington. And I really liked it there, so I stayed there for 2 years. And then, I was probably missing home a bit and Ireland. And I kind of learned a lot from Team Wellington. And I thought, well, I want to try and move on and get into the professional setup. And I said, I could have stayed in Wellington and been comfortable and enjoyed the lifestyle. But I said, no, I'm going to go out and search for something a little bit more challenging. And that's what I kind of did. And the challenge led me to Stomil.
It's actually a really long, interesting interview. We'll play it out in full for you next week in a special edition. Good luck to Eric Molloy at Stomil Olsztyn, Lisa Fallon at London City Lionesses, and Claire O'Riordan at MSV Duisburg. Should be an interesting end to the season. That's it for now. We'll be back midweek as the Primeira Liga in Portugal kicks off once more. As usual, please do like, rate and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We're also on YouTube these days as well, but in sound only. For Mark Rodden, Stephane, Jauny, Dmytro, Dzhulai and me, Will Downing, until next time, it's goodbye.